Good afternoon. So we got a large team. We'll see how this goes. We got brought together in a way by this image, which was painted by an artist using just his eye movements. And it's this guy here who's a graffiti writer in LA by the name of Tempt1. He was suffering from ALS and he was paralyzed. But some friends of his banded around and got this really affordable optical control peripheral, basically a webcam and some infrared LEDs. And he was able to paint using just his eyes. It's kind of inspiring. So with the Peripherals initiative, we heard about that story on our side. That's Damian and I starting with that. And we just thought, hey, that's a pretty neat thing to explore in the video game space. And Damian and I are both on that side of things. So the first idea that sort of seemed worth exploring was just something that's kind of a flight game. Something where when you look in a direction, you end up going in that direction. That just seemed like a very basic and obvious concept, but something that might be kind of powerful. So we gave it the most obvious title we possibly could, which is iPilot. And the next step was to figure out how feasible is it going to be to actually build a reliable optical control peripheral. Now, Patrick, who was on stage earlier today, managed to make a really powerful connection with some specialists here in Toronto. And they actually were already busy working on an optical control peripheral for an amazing project you might have seen at Nuit Blanche. So I'll pass the mic over to the Drawing with Frames folks. They represent most of the folks up here.
Oh, I'm a lot shorter than you. Hi, everyone. I'm Ruth. I'm one of the project managers of the Drawing with Frames exhibition. For those of you that went to Nuit Blanche this past fall, you may have seen us. We featured the iWriter device, that peripheral right over there. And and it was an amazing experience. What we wanted to do was not just, we were intrigued by the technology because it enabled the disabled, and that's something that's really powerful. All of us are techies here. I wouldn't call us specialists, but we were just a bunch of techies that were intrigued with the technology, and we were captured by how tangible it was to build. Now, we didn't know all of the answers, but with this entire team back here, we managed to figure it out. Basically, just like what Craig was describing, it's just a webcam that just tracks your actual retina. And we use software called the Gaze Tracker. The iWriter initiative also had their own software, but we found that the Gaze Tracker worked for us best. And then we got going on to the prototype. So the simplest, the most obvious thing was just take a pair of sunglasses and actually mount the webcam. And we went through several prototypes, but this was the one that we featured at Nuit Blanche. And so when we actually met Craig with his awesome game, and Damian as well, we thought we wanted to take it to the next level. And one of the members here, Saj, was like, well, if you're gonna use your eyes to actually navigate through the space, why don't we make it like a pilot's helmet? And so we just took it to the next level, and that really opened up the possibilities because the technology wasn't even just about drawing anymore. It opened up the potential that this peripheral can have so many applications, not just in gaming, which would completely change the user experience, but also there could be educational applications for those who are disabled. So again, that was the thing that connected us into the project, is that this device was invented for an ALS patient, someone who is paralyzed. And so that's really a beautiful thing, that how we can actually enable those people and actually include them into the whole realm of gaming.
I'm going to jump in and say that was designed by this guy, Saj, and that's known as the Saj 9000. And you got to check it out. It's super badass. And then as like a frame, we really needed the head to be stable. So we've got a seat there that supports the head and a roll cage to make you kind of feel like you're in a plane. And Bobby kind of led the charge on that. And as for the video game, that's sort of me and Damian here. So Damian is a local DIY video game creator who you might know. And we got together and opened up Unity and started thinking about what it would be. And the main idea is that if you're moving through space, all we have to do is put something on the screen that's going to attract your attention, and you're going to like automatically look at it. And we know that, so we can design around that. And we can start to put traps up for you to sort of look at and be distracted by. Here's some footage, and I definitely recommend that if you get a chance, we got a wicked setup, and you might dig it. So from here on out, where you look is where you're steering. So there's a couple things you can look at. And we actually didn't complicate it too much with a lot of mechanics. The experience was strong enough on its own that we just kind of let people explore. But there is a bit of a path that we're trying to guide you through. Anyway, I'll leave it there. So that's iPilot, and definitely come on up, and if you have any questions, we got a whole crowd to answer your questions.
It looks like a truly ambitious project. You guys have a big team. Can you guys maybe just tell us a little bit about how your team came together and that mix of hardware and software? We have a bit of a sense of it, but maybe we can hear from some of the other team members about how things came together. And I mean, you've got 3D printing, hardware hacking, video game development, all rolled into this one project. And I'm just wondering, how did you guys manage so many facets in such a small period of time?
Well, as a group for the Nuit Blanche project, we did a Nuit Blanche exhibit last year. So I mean, that's how the Drawing with Frames team came together. But for this year, when we started the iPilot project, or we started the Drawing with Frames project, it's funny because one of the things we were trying to push was the ALS. It helps ALS patients. But the other thing we wanted to support was the fact that it's open source. It's all available on the internet. And the next thing we wanted to push was the collaboration aspect. The fact that people from all over the internet can get together and just talk to each other. So it's funny how we got together, because as soon as we put up our website, which was designed by Ruth over here, almost like the day after we got this website up, we got an email from Craig telling us that he was doing the iPilot project. And along the way, we met other people, developers. We actually got contacted by the original people from the iWriter team as well along the way. So it kind of just happened by accident. I mean, our original goal was just to put on a cool exhibit for Nuit Blanche, get that going, but along the way we picked up other people.
I wouldn't say it's a complete accident, but I think the cool thing is that all of us have interconnected interests in technology. So some of us here come from different backgrounds, and so Saj here, he engineered the entire helmet, and that's he's really good with hardware, and like Andrew, he's really fascinated with the whole user game experience, and Bobby the builder, like actually, he loves to build things. And the cool thing too, we got other people who weren't necessarily they weren't coming from a technology perspective involved because of the ALS angle. So we had volunteers that, were connected with technology a little bit more because they realized that it wasn't necessarily irrelevant to them because, they weren't really into it. So I think it had a lot to do with the actual cause and linking it to the actual technology, and that made it more accessible for people to get involved.
That sounds fantastic. Tom, maybe I can put you on the spot a little bit, and maybe you could talk a bit about how open source and community building sort of work, because I think I get the sense when you talk about reaching out to all of these other people and bringing together all of these resources from open source communities online to help realize your own project. Of course, Arduino is one of those spaces where open source has and community building have been really fundamental to the success of an idea. And maybe you could just give us a few insights on that as we kind of come to the end of the day. Sure,
but one comment I want to make before I do that video I really love, because a lot of times when you hear a description of something, first of all, with games, you at least need the video to see what's going on. And I was really wondering, because the where your eye goes in an emotion situation, I was wondering how that was going to play out. Watching the video, I got it right away, so much so that when I looked at things, I wanted them to explode, and they didn't. And I was going, wait, why doesn't it work? So that was a great success, that alone. So good job. I think to what you're saying, Steve, this project is interesting because it's a project. It's not a platform. And one of the things that we struggle with a lot with Arduino is that when you're building a platform and you open source it, a lot of people have very good ideas, but they're not always the ideas that you want to put into the platform, and you have to balance the ideas, whether they're going to match up with a large part of the community or not, whether they're going to balance with the part of your audience that you are trying to serve primarily or not. The great thing about a project, in a way, is that you have a much more directed goal, and you get to say, this is what we did. So I'm happy to see things like this that are documented out there, because what they do is they show this is what a platform can do. You know, with iWriter, which is, I think, a great project, a great platform, iWriter needs projects like this to say this is what's possible with it. It also shows what is limited with it, you know, the whole issue of where you look, and you guys did some really nice job, it seems like, to solve that. So I think the big difference for me when we think about open source projects is you always have to ask yourselves, which am I doing? Or at what level am I doing a project or a platform? And that's going to change the dynamic of your team and how you manage that.
Fantastic. I want to congratulate the iPilot team. You guys seem to have really pulled together a fantastic project, and we'll definitely invite everyone to come up and see all of the outcomes. So I'll just say thanks to your team.